Yeah, yeah. So, have you always just been? Because you seem pretty authentic to me. I'd say so. So, have you always been this authentic, or has it always been a process?
It's definitely been a process. So, going back to with me writing, like me being open with people and just like sharing parts of who I am, let alone like performing in front of people was not something that I would do. I was like super shy, would not talk to people. Like, so it's been a full journey. And it's funny when I meet people like through what I do now, and then I'll tell them stuff like that. They'll look at me and be like, what? Like, because they'll see like how confident I've seen him on stage and all this other stuff and just assume I'm just flat out a people person. And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, not that I just hate people, but it's like life was not always like this. If I were to go up to my younger self and be like, hey, you know how, you were taught not to share your feelings and not to express yourself and all this other stuff. One day you're gonna talk about stuff that makes you happy, sad, mad, angry, and then you're gonna share it with people on stage. I would have been like, nah, you got the wrong person. Because that just wasn't me. But it's been such a process of me unlearning things that I used to think were normal and realizing it's not. There's nothing wrong with expressing yourself, sharing your feelings, because like you said earlier, journaling, all that stuff is therapeutic. But I grew up with parents where, their parents weren't big on communication and all that stuff. And so they were, of course, they were, of course, going to teach me stuff that was taught to them. But I had to get to a point of realizing more about myself and then eventually going to therapy and starting to unlearn all of those generational behaviors, because that wasn't healthy for me, of just keeping all of that stuff inside and just wondering why I'm feeling sad and all these other negative emotions all the time, because I'm carrying around anger and resentment and grudges from 5 years ago. So of course you're going to be tired and have insomnia and all these other problems that I used to have that I don't have to deal with as much anymore because I wasn't properly letting things go. Of course, writing is therapeutic, but, if I go a month without writing, I'm not verbally telling people, hey, even though you're my friend, you did this, that, and the third, and that hurt me. Or, hey, this happened that this person did, and that really made me angry. I wasn't sharing those things with people. I just kept it all in my head. So I go to sleep. Well, I'll lay down at night wondering why I can't sleep. I'm carrying a bunch of stuff around and it's just building up day by day. So it has been such a long process, but I'm so happy just looking back, knowing who I used to be, seeing how far I've came, how therapy has assisted me with, I still overthink at times, but I'm able to share things with people more quickly without just assuming everybody's out to get me, because it's beneficial for me to share those parts of myself, because that also allows me to connect with other people. I used to be the person where everyone would share all their problems with, but then I would feel like alone at times or disconnected from people because they didn't know who I was, but they knew like, oh, well, Rachel can basically be my therapist. She's the go-to friend. But you carrying around everybody else's problems and your own, it gets exhausting. So it definitely has not always been this way. It's been a long journey, but I feel like this journey will continue taking me, to places I didn't think I could go. So like I said, if I were to tell my younger self I'd be doing this stuff, I would be looking like, no, it must be a different Rachel. It's a pretty common name.
That's so real though. That's so real though. See, now that you explain that, see, that's why we get each other right there. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's such a real thing. It's such a real thing. A lot of the times we grow up, and especially in the Black community, where it's just like we don't talk about feelings, we don't talk about what's going on.
Because
Yeah,
it makes you weak.
exactly. It makes you weak. We're very proud people. So and the thing that I had to unlearn is just like I had to stop looking at it as weak and realize that it's a different level of strength. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? A lot of the things that we have negative perceptions about are actually the opposite. It's like mirror work. You know what I'm saying? It's the opposite. Like you think it's weak to talk about feelings, but in reality, do you know how hard it is to talk about feelings? To get to a place where you can't openly talk about your feelings because you're at a point where you can understand like these are my feelings and they are what they are.
Yeah.
And
And it's such a journey unlearning all that stuff because, sounds like we had similar backgrounds of how we grew up and things we were told. But by saying that it's weak to share feelings and things like that, you just mentioned it and you just said it, that's actually a strength. Because by not sharing those things, you're really in denial, and that's taking the easy way out by pretending everything's okay and it's not.
say it, say it. You hit me in my stomach. Say it.
Oh no. Yeah, it's definitely harder to be able to open up and express yourself and say, hey, you may or may not agree with me, but here's how I'm feeling. So by being able to say, this is how I feel, this is something that, I'm sad about, that hurt me, etc. That's a strength by knowing yourself well enough to vocalize, this is what's going on with me, and I'm going to do something about it or express it to you or whatever needs to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't go to therapy for so many years for a couple reasons. Like, I probably knew I needed to go to therapy for some years because I would get into moods and I would be like, is there something wrong with me? And just be
Yeah.
wondering, and it's just like,
And you probably don't even know why you in the mood. You're just in one.
yeah, yeah. Actually, one of the reasons why my therapist had me start journaling was because she would ask me questions about my childhood. Because they do the thing where they try to understand you. They try to talk about past experience, like, well, what made you feel that way? And I'd be like, Miss Monica, I don't know. Because it's just like I don't. Yeah, because I had got real good at disassociating from my feelings. Like I literally had to go through and like relearn emotion because I had got so good at suppressing them. You know what I'm saying? And that's real life denial. Like you said, like that's real life denial. Like if you can sit and be like, I don't even know why I'm feeling this way, but I feel this way. And to get to the point where it's just like, mad because this happened. And then being able to let it pass. And I don't have to throw a temper tantrum. I don't have to do any of the old things that I used to do because I can be like, all right, this is what I'm feeling. This is why I'm feeling it. And I don't have to react. I don't have to do anything. I can just acknowledge what it is that I'm feeling and move on with my life. Strength. That's a strength.
Exactly. Because with that, you have to learn how to process and what's the best way for you to deal with stuff with, like you said, not having to throw temper tantrums, finding a healthy way to deal with things that bother you. Because when you get to a point where you start going to therapy or, for other people, whatever they might do to realize there's certain things that they need to change about themselves, it's so much to unpack. You have suppressed so many things for years. Like it's so much to undo, unlearn, retrain your brain. It's an entire journey that takes a lot of time.
Yeah, time and effort, but it's absolutely possible.
Yeah, and worth it too.
And absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it. Because you know what I'm saying? Like again, flipping up those things on the head, like it seems hard to go talk to somebody, to find help, to do all of these things. But in reality, it's simple, but we overthink it and make it hard.
Yeah.
Because we worry about, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and then especially in the Black community, because it's seen as such a negative thing of just going to somebody and getting help, when in actuality, it's a lot of people that need it, but that stigma just ruins it, where people will know they need the assistance, and instead of working on themselves, they just dump their problems on the next person or expect their family and friends to just fix them. And it's like, you have to do that from within. Nobody can do it for you. People can make you feel better or be there for you. But if you're still carrying around the same problems, it's only so much pouring a person can do into you until you have to get to a point of realizing there's a hole in my cup. You know what I mean? These people doing all of this stuff for me and it's never good enough. There's an issue here.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And being able to, one, just having that self-actualization to be able to realize something like that, even that is a big step. To have that level of self-reflection, because some people walk around and they just aren't even aware, that it's that way, because, to an extent, some of these things are generational curses in a sense, where it's just like, you don't even know because this is the norm, this is the norm. Like again, like I said, the reason, like, one, I thought it was a lot of things wrong with me when I wasn't going to therapy, but two, I was afraid of judgment, because like, this is my family. Don't do that. We don't do.
Yeah.
We don't talk about feelings. We don't, whatever. Like, we supposed to give it to God, and like,
Girl, I'm about to slide down the wall because it took me a minute before I even felt comfortable admitting and telling, like my parents, especially, that I was going to therapy, because I was like, I don't know how they going to take this. They going to assume that I lost my way. And one day I was like, forget it. Like, I'm feeling good. I'm learning great skills. And I don't remember how I brought it up in conversation, but I remember I told my mom first, and her immediate response was like, oh, you need to just pray about stuff. I do, and I still had the problems, and that doesn't mean that I don't believe in God and I don't believe prayer works, but I needed additional help
yeah,
with people he gave this, skill set to be able to help me. And when I started telling her all the different things that it did for me, like, she kind of started to like chill out a little bit and be like, oh, okay, well, if it's helping her, but it just sucks that it's like you almost have to plead your case on, like, I want to be a better person, but don't down me for wanting to do that. So I just really wish it was more normalized in the Black community. But yeah, I definitely was like, oh, let me not tell anybody. And then I think maybe after like a couple months, I was like, here's what I've been up to. But I
yeah,
feel in the back of my head was like, they gonna think I'm a heathen. They gonna think I just lost my little way.
yeah, yeah. And I remember, I hope my dad don't kill me for saying this, but he was saying this because I was the same way. I actually told my mom before I told my dad, because when it came to
Yeah,
telling
because
my
it just
dad,
felt
it's just like,
easier.
I ain't doing this with you today. I just feel like, you know what I'm saying? And like, I remember, because I would actually come to my parents' house and do therapy so they could watch my dog, because otherwise she'd be like all up on me. And like, I'd come downstairs and he'd be like, what she help you with today? Like, what y'all talking about today? Almost like he's curious, but at the same time joking with me, like, what are you
Yeah,
doing?
like, what is this for?
Yeah. But it's just like, I'm getting coping skills here. Like,
Exactly.
like, I'm getting some things, and after a couple months, to see, actually it's been like 2 years since I don't actually still actively go to therapy, but I got my therapist on retainer. Um exactly, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's been 2 years since I did that, and like, the progress in my life is clear. Like, it's undeniable. It's just undeniable. And it almost feels like, to an extent, me taking that step is having a trickle effect in my own family and the people around me, because they can see, like, I can articulate. It's just like, well, you asking a question of what me and my therapist talked about today. Let me tell you, and let me tell you how it's helping me. And then when you see my life improving, you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes I can say things and they'll be like, all right, that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? And they might not necessarily say it, but you see them making like little changes here and there, because something that you said makes sense or something clicks. And it's just like, now you get to heal more than just yourself.
Yeah, because people start to see that light in you brighten, and now they are able to connect with you in a better way, and they're realizing something about you is different, and you're able to just share more of yourself because of the skills and, things that you learned in that process.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And like, sometimes it just takes someone to step out of their box and try something different. Like, once you get that self-awareness, like, okay, something's not right here. Um,
Yeah.
Getting self-awareness, figuring out, okay, now something's not right. What can I do about it? Taking those steps to do it. And before you know it, you could very well be walking in your purpose, um, with your soul tribe around you, making you feel understood and supported and everything like that, being inspirations to other people. And you know what I'm saying? Healing the people around you, and then just being a light in the world. Like, your whole existence literally could change by just acknowledging something's not right here.
Yeah, all that stuff is connected, but it all starts with yourself. It all starts with being able to introspect, but also being able to look at the future and think about, what type of person do I want to be? Where do I see myself? But then coming backwards a little bit and saying, what do I need to do before I can get there? And I think a lot of times people will have a good thought process of saying like, oh, I want my future to look like this. I want to be a CEO, blah, blah, blah. But then they want to start at the CEO position. No, we need to actually take some steps and think about how can we get to where we want to be. And I think sometimes when you're able to think about that, or even able to ask yourself like, am I okay or am I not okay right now? That can be the starting point of, getting there. So a lot of the times people want to skip steps, but those steps might not directly lead you to where you want to go, but it puts you in the right position where you slowly work on yourself. You get connected to new people and opportunities. It all works together.
Yes. Yes. You know what I'm saying? A reason why we call our compilations trust the process is because a big part of the journey is understanding that it's all a process. And that takes us back to what we said earlier, even in this episode, where it's just like one day at a time, one at a time, one step at a time. I used to get so frustrated, even in this process. And it's crazy because I was praying today. I pray a lot, talk to God a lot. So I was praying today, and I'm thanking God one for the progress, and the progress in the sense of I'm not expecting this overnight anymore. Yeah. I'm past the point. Like I have learned to be content with the journey, which sounds simple, but to me it was hard. I don't know about but learning to trust the journey was hard because I'm always trying to get to step 2. Like I'm not trying to get to step 2. I'm trying to get to step 5. Some step 1. I'm trying to skip steps, and I would get so frustrated because it's just like, well, if I need to do this, like for instance, if I want to start this podcast, well, I need to get studio time. I got to get this. Like, how am I supposed to compete with all these other people out here? And it wasn't until I realized, one, you don't need to compete.
Yeah.
There's nothing to compete with.
Only compete with yourself.
There's nothing to compete with. And 2, like, it's so many different ways to approach one thing. Just find one that works for you and take your time with it. Because if I'm stressed out about this, it's because I'm stressing out about things that I can't control where I'm not at yet. And not understanding that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm trying to rush ahead to step 10 and I'm on step 1.
Yeah.
Like,
it can be so easy to try to rush and get to that end goal. But sometimes you have to stop and be like, dang, like rushing really, like, it seems like the best thing to do when you know exactly what you want. But then sometimes rushing messes stuff up more than taking your time. It gets in the way. It's kind of like how on That's So Raven, because she knew what would happen, she would make it happen and mess it up. So it's like sometimes life is like that, where it's like we try to rush and get to the goal, but sometimes we mess stuff up by making mistakes because we moving too fast and all this other stuff, versus just being like, you know what, let me just let life happen. Let me just let stuff pan out the way it needs to and take my time. But it can definitely be hard to do that because we live in a world where everything is so fast paced. So you're like, oh, I have this idea. And 5 minutes later, you're like, I need to have it.
yeah.
Just the thought, like you're so ready. But then sometimes you got to be like, no, it's not going to happen that quickly. But with everything moving so fast around us, it can be hard to like sometimes calm ourselves down and be like, all right, realistically, it's going to take X amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Because to an extent, you don't have it for a reason. And that's what I was thanking God for. I was thanking God for having more sense than me, because I'm always trying to control things. And it's just like, once you get from step 1 to 2 to 3 and you standing at 3 and looking at 1, you can look and be like, I can see why I didn't get to step 5 when I got to step 5, because I didn't know this that I know now. I didn't have this lesson or that experience or this or that. And I thank God for having more sense than me, because if I would have got what I wanted when I wanted it, I would have screwed it all up.
Yeah.
So,
and then waiting makes you appreciate stuff more too.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes you, because I got humble. Like mine is humbling me, but I had a little bit of an ego. So like mine is just like, just go with the flow, because you think you know everything. Like again, like That's So Raven, you want to know everything, You want to get to that step, and it's just like you going about it the wrong way though, because you just don't know what you know yet.
Yep, messing stuff up in the process, all while trying to fix it. It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Standing in your own way.
Yes, standing in your own way, don't even know you standing in your own way, and you refuse to move because you think you like the answers.